Hi again. You're probably wondering how this all started with me having 4 Angelmen. And let me tell you, it started with us wanting a big family. Um, Drew, of course, is our oldest, and he is now 24. When he was born, I noticed, well, first of all, with UBE 3A, they look pretty typical. So he looked like a perfect baby boy, and he was born like regular, and what I mean by regular is, he wasn't premature. And he was, just like a regular baby until about maybe, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months. I noticed like he's not babbling, he's not doing this. And I was starting to notice like some other symptoms of delay and whatnot. And so I proceeded to talk to his pediatrician about it, and his pediatrician just dismissed me, saying that, all babies develop differently, and, he could be just later in life with things. And when Drew was a year old, I really was bothered because he just seemed to be so way behind still. Like, he's not having a hard time sitting, he's having a hard time standing, he can't babble. And I was adamant about, I need to find out what's wrong with my son. And so I take him to a neurologist. I made my own appointment. I called Cleveland Clinic in the Yellow Pages back then, and I was put on a waiting list. And then as soon as I was put on the waiting list, it was like a miracle. The girl called me right back, and she said, "Oh, you know what? I have an appointment tomorrow if you can make it." And so I immediately made the appointment. We went up to Cleveland Clinic, and he assessed Andrew, and he said the first thing we're going to do is take an MRI and see from there if there's anything that's with the brain, and then we'll follow up with an appointment. So we do the MRI, and it comes back, and the neurologist says everything looks good. The only thing that was noted was Arnold-Chiari malformation, but that's nothing. Don't worry about it. That's just just a little notation about the brains, but it's just it's asymptomatic, so you don't have to worry about it. So I go home, and I look up on the computer what this is. What is Chiari malformation? And mind you, Drew was like, I don't know, 14 months at the time or whatever. And I look, and he's got all the symptoms of this Chiari. He's fallen asleep while he's eating. He cries at bedtime. He doesn't cry for his shots. All these things I'm looking at, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's symptomatic. And that's what it said in this article, that there's a small percentage of people that are symptomatic, and these are the symptoms, and you need to see a neurosurgeon. But my neurologist up in Cleveland said, no, you need to go see a genetic doctor. That's who is going to help you diagnose your son's delays. So we go to the genetic doctor, and I had the list of what is wrong with Drew, and I still have it with me. And he concluded that there is something genetic that we need to do some blood work on. And so we made an appointment to get the blood work, and he said, by the way, Mom, maybe you should get checked out, referring that all my symptoms were just ludicrous, because I had things like won't cry for his shots, he cries only when I put him down to bed, and falling asleep while he's eating his food. Like, he just thought those symptoms were just ridiculous. So I called the neurosurgeon when I was doing this search on the computer, and they didn't want to make an appointment with me. They just wanted me to send Andrew's MRI to them, and they will decide whether he needs an appointment or not. And when they got them, they called me back and they told me that they needed to see us immediately. And we went down, and it was at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And I was thinking, okay, in my mom's head, I was thinking, this is why Andrew's delayed, right? So I go down there, and the neurosurgeon tells me that his Chiari is significant, that he is not getting any CSF flow to his brain, and it's just like his cerebral tonsils are just pissoning, going up and down, because the CSF flow goes up to the brain, not down. And he said that that's not normal, and Drew's in so much pain that that's the only thing he's ever known since he was born is pain. That's why he doesn't cry for his shots and doesn't cry for like other things like ear infections and whatnot. He never cried in pain. And he said that's because the pain is so bad that you wouldn't be able to stand it if you had it. But that's all he knows. So that's why he doesn't cry in pain. And that was horrifying. And at the time, I had another baby. And that was Christina. And she was a brand new baby. Like, I'm talking a couple months old. And so we were hesitant to do the surgery for Chiari, and the neurosurgeon said that I just want to let you know that this is just going to alleviate some of his symptoms, that I do believe he's got something else, but we won't know more until after the surgery, because this is clouding up any diagnosis he could have right now. So ultimately, when Drew was almost 2, he had his Chiari surgery, and it was significant. And he just made major improvements. Like, he started walking assisted, and then he was independently walking within like a month. And we were just now, with the genetic doctor to see what is going on with Drew. So we did all the typical tests, and I know you moms that have developmentally challenged kids all have been through the same tests. We all go through the same stuff, so I'm not even going to mention it. But one of them was Angelman syndrome, and that was in, like I said, Drew was almost 2, so that was in 2000. And he tested negative. And that was the last test we did genetically. And after that, because he did like 6 or 7 tests before that, I just didn't want to test him anymore, because I frankly didn't like the diagnosis of Angelman syndrome. I just said, no way. I don't like that even term, happy puppet. That's just awful. And just the way they describe everything, I just didn't want that diagnosis. And so I chose to say, you know what, I'm going to love Drew for who he is, and whatever is whatever is. I'm just going to love him, because, our babies, when they are born, they just do look like typical perfect babies, and I just love them so, so much. And I just didn't care. I mean, my love was just unconditional, and I just was going to be there for him because I'm his mom. And so after that, like I said, Christina was just a little baby. I actually postponed Drew's surgery until she was about 6 months, because I didn't want to stop nursing her and give her a bottle right away, because that was really important to me, and I didn't know the gravity of Drew's condition until his condition got worse, but that's on another episode maybe. But Christine was born when Drew was almost 2, and she was just such a cute little baby girl, and we were just so excited. We had 4 kids. We were so happy. We had 2 boys, 2 girls. Everything was just perfect. perfect. So then, by surprise, we had Ryan. And Ryan was just, we really didn't expect Ryan. In fact, my husband at the time was like, "Are you sure you're pregnant?" And I said, "Definitely, I'm sure." And Ryan is only 15 months apart from Christina. He was just a complete surprise. And unfortunately, when Ryan was born, he had so many problems. But when he was born, funny thing was, before he was born, the day before he was born, I had braces taken out of my mouth. And I asked everyone, is it okay to take my braces out? Because I'm 9 months pregnant and I don't want any problems like having the baby too soon. Everyone from my OB-GYN to my orthodontist said, it's fine, you can get your braces out, no worries. And so I get my braces taken out. Orthodontist calls me and asks me, are you okay that night? I said, I'm fine, I feel great, I'm so happy to have my braces taken out. The very next morning, immediate severe labor pain. Like, it came on so fast, so fast. And I just remember Mark going like, hurry up, because we had, at the time, 4 kids. So we were rounding up the kids, and by the time we were rounding them up to go to the hospital, I couldn't even tie my shoe. And I was just so agitated because I was in so much pain. I couldn't tie my shoe. I'm yelling at my oldest daughter, like, hurry up, you're taking too long. And we're walking to the door, and I felt like I was walking with a beach ball between my legs. It was so awful. I literally felt like somebody stuffed a beach ball and said, now walk with this thing without dropping it. And I told him, I'm like, something's not right. And so we're racing down to the hospital. And when we get there, and I am dropped off in the emergency department, I find out that I'm already ready to push. That's my water that's keeping me from having the baby. I'm already dilated. It's just that my water didn't break. That's why I had that feeling. Talk about creepy. I just, oh my gosh, that was just really unbelievable, thinking I could have had a baby like at home or in a car. So anyway, Ryan was born. And when Ryan was born, I came home from the hospital having him, and I saw like some dirty clothes on the side, and I was just like, oh gosh, I gotta get that fixed. And I turned slightly and I dislocated my knee, and I was in so much pain. I couldn't even scream out for pain. I was just banging on the floor for help. And so I had to get to be on the couch for like 6 weeks. And so while I was recuperating from that, in that 6-week period of time, Ryan was just not right. He was screaming. He was crying all the time. That he was called Crying Ryan, and he just cried all the time. Like, he turned purple. He was crying all the time. He just didn't even like getting nursed. He was just crying all the time. And I felt like this was a baby that hated me, like I was taking it personally. And he was just always crying. The only thing that would make him not cry is my washing machine. The rumbling would just settle him down and he'd fall asleep, but he'd always cry. And he always was puking too. So when I finally was able to like get up and move, which was about 6 to 8 weeks, I can't even remember, I took him to the pediatrician. And once again, the pediatrician dismisses my concerns and says, you know, all babies puke, you know, you're probably exaggerating. And I said, no, I'm not exaggerating. It's just everywhere. And he's like, okay, well, I'll take you to this so-and-so doctor. And we go to this dinky hospital, and Ryan is just not doing well, and this hospital is not taking care of us, and I feel like the nurses are more concerned than the doctor. And so this is back in 2001. So I contacted the doctor that took care of my son for the brain surgery, and he said he'd admit him down in Cincinnati. So yes, I drove all the way to Cincinnati for Ryan's puking problem, thinking that maybe he has the same thing that Drew has. So I drive down to Cincinnati, and long story short, Ryan had tracheomalacia and GERD. GERD is a reflux condition. That's a disease. It's pretty significant. So what was happening was every time he was having a moment of GERD where his food was coming back up his throat, his trachea would close up and he wouldn't get enough air, and so he would turn purplish blue. But if he was like trying to breathe and the trachea would close, the GERD would act up. So they were just constantly having a problem with that. So he ended up being my only baby I couldn't nurse because his GERD was so bad. And then, well, Ryan was struggling with that, and they termed him failure to thrive because he wasn't getting treatment until I think he was 3 months old. Because when he was 2 months old, he was only 7 pounds. And that's when the pediatrician was finally listening to my concerns. And so in that time period, I'm trying to treat Ryan with formula and, you know, rice cereal, so his cereal, so he could put on weight. And I was just focusing on him gaining weight more than anything else. And the next thing you know, I'm pregnant with Ashley. Now, when I was pregnant with Ashley, this was my 6th kid, and I knew right away, no way do I want to have any more babies. This is becoming too easy to get pregnant, and 6 is a lot of kids. You know, we were going to just have 4, and then Ryan was a surprise. So Ashley, okay, now she evens the deal, and I'm going to stop at 6. And Ashley was born, and she was just such a beautiful baby. And I just remember thinking, like, oh my God, she's just so pretty and cute and everything. And when she was just a couple weeks old, I noticed she was breathing pretty fast, but she was very pleasant. She was just breathing fast. Like, she was eating, she was sleeping, she was doing all the normal stuff. Like, everything was normal. Like, you could just, I mean, she was awake and she'd be looking at you and doing all normal baby stuff. The only thing that wasn't normal was her breathing. And I remember saying, I'm just going to call a pediatrician and ask about this. So the nurse asked me to put Ashley's mouth near the receiver so she could hear the baby breathe. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, she's breathing way too fast. You need to take her to the ER right now. So I take her to the ER, and I swear, where I live, it's just a curse. Like, just forget good health care. And the ER doctor's like, I don't know why you're here. You know, her oxygen's fine. And he did a chest x-ray, and he's like, we're just going to have her for observation. And so then the next morning, the pediatrician is in a frantic state because overnight, Ashley's SATs went into the 80s and she actually had bacterial pneumonia. And she was ultimately admitted to the hospital for a whole week. And that was just the beginning, because Ashley ended up having a lot of like respiratory illnesses in her first year of life. She had RSV, she had pneumonia. I felt like she was always in the hospital for a couple of days because of a respiratory illness. So what I conclude from this story of telling you about my 6 is it seems like there's always like something extra associated when they are born with Angelman syndrome. And with all of them, I didn't have anyone tested for any more genetic tests, because I kept in mind, first of all, that Drew tested negative for everything, and you have to keep in mind that all of them are born pretty much, they look like a typical baby. They don't show signs until they're about, I would say, 6 months to a year, and even then I got dismissed by the pediatrician, saying that you're just a crazy mom, you know, everyone develops at a different rate, and you're just overreacting and you're wasting our time. And as my family was growing, of course, I'm busy. I'm just so busy taking care of my daughter who's going to school, my sons who's going to school. Then, you know, each kid is getting older. So, you know, I'm just having a lot of balancing, and I'm not really focused on a lot other than, you know, I'm just taking care of 6 little kids. They're all born close together in age, and it was slow process until they started having seizures. And Andrew started when he was probably like, I would say 4 or 5 years old. I can't remember exactly. The girls started much earlier, and Ryan started maybe a year or so afterwards, but that'll be another episode. I just want to start with telling you about how it all started.